Trevor here from Mosaic Books for another episode of our weekly Bookcast Holiday Edition. It's that time of year when we've got a lot going on around us, and it's sometimes hard to get that perfect present, that gift for the hard to buy on your list. So I've got a few suggestions. Rather than doing a single book where I talk about in depth, I'm gonna blow a whole bunch at you, brief descriptions, and see what sticks for all the people on your list. So let's dive right in. I've got for the kind of science nerd on your list, so this is, you know, up my alley for sure. I've got two books, and the first one you may have heard of already. It's part of the CBC Massey Lectures series, and it's called The Universe Within by Neal. So if you're unfamiliar with the CBC Massey Lecture series, it's like a miscellany of topics and subjects from fiction to non-fiction, and the authors tour around and speak about their books and their writing. So this particular one is kind of a conversation with science. So Neal is one of the world's top theoretical physicists, and it's his kind of his walk through physics and science for the past 300 years. But he doesn't focus on all the crazy details. He just more so focuses on the people and how the ideas came to be, where they come into play in the world, and why they're important. So very cool book. Kind of give you a good history of classic mechanics and physics all the way up to string theory and quantum. So check it out. A partner with that one is, I just love this book because of the design. It's called The Where, The Why, and The How. It's one of our lovely Chronicle publications, so hence the design is beautiful. And it's basically 75 artists illustrate wondrous mysteries of science. So you've got all these beautiful pictures with a little description. So here's page 31. What determines the size of a primate social group? Have you ever wondered that? Well, a little brief paragraph will tell you how. And you know, what is the circadian clock? You can figure out what that is too. I have no idea, but I'll read up and find out about it, right? And so again, it's not too wordy. It's not like they're going into the equations behind things. It's more general concepts. And again, you've got some famous artists like John Klassen, who's a big, you know, a kids illustrator. He's one of the artists in this book. So just very good inspiration-wise for any graphic designer or any person who likes design and science all in one. So give that a try. For the kiddies, I'm going to talk about Scaredy Squirrel. It's our favorite hypochondriac squirrel. He is back with the Scaredy Squirrel Prepares for Christmas. So this is by Melanie, a Canadian author. Again, if you're not familiar with Scaredy Squirrel, it's this cute little squirrel that is afraid of pretty much everything, and it's him trying to manage, you know, basic tasks in life. You know, wrapping a present. How would Scaredy Squirrel do it? It's very involved. So there's a lot of little fun activities within this book, like crafts and quizzes. They're all kind of tongue-in-cheek, great for parents as well. You know, the kids love the squirrel because he's cute and funny. Parents love the squirrel because he's an obvious paranoid, you know, crazy person, and he's overbearing. So anyway, it's great because both people can find humor in the story. Lastly, I'd like to just talk about our sweet deal table right now at Mosaic. We've got Crazy Mike's Christmas Bargain Blowouts. Wow! All these books on this table are very inexpensive. We've got a whole series of Christopher Moore here for $3.99. Christopher Moore, if you don't know, he's a hilarious parody author. So he takes the vampire genre and writes a whole parody on it, or he has he actually does it a few times. He has The Fool about jesters, and Knights of the Round Table and that sort of thing, parodies it. So very funny stuff. We also have the Lord of the Rings trilogy for $2.99 each. You can get the whole series for $9. Crazy. So come and check out these sweet deals. We got lots of other bargain books. Most of them are under $10, so you can really stretch your budget this year with us. All right, so I've done my part. This is what I recommend for this week. I'll be back next week to talk more Christmas, but let's check in with the rest of the staff and see what they are recommending for your stockings this year. Ho, 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 MaryAnn. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you? Excellent.
Do you have some book recommendations or a book for Christmas, for holiday reading?
I do. If you are kind of stuck with somebody you don't really know, reads a lot or they're hard to buy for book-wise, I suggest that you pick up Cosmopolis by DeLillo. I might have murdered his name right there, but so it's kind of it's a really good book. It's kind of if you have somebody who enjoyed reading Bret Ellis, you know, American Psycho, is kind of into that sort of nihilistic sort of worldview, and I don't know, it's just a really beautifully written book. It's short, so I mean it doesn't take a lot of space in a bag if you're going on a plane to visit people somewhere. It's just one of those surprising books that you end up picking up. Don't really know if you're gonna really like it, but the writing is beautiful, the sentence structure is great, and it's talks about this poor sad soul of the city and this billionaire that's losing his millions and can't seem to care, and it all comes together nicely, and it's just a nice surprising read that you should pick up for the holidays for one of those people you're not sure what to buy for. Well, for people who are maybe going through the classics right now, they want something a bit deeper and you know, just kind of more something to get their teeth into literature-wise. You know, if you have somebody reading The Great Gatsby and, you know, all those sort of things, maybe you should try this one for a modern take on something that I'm sure might become a classic.
Merry Christmas, Graham.
Merry Christmas, Trevor.
Oh boy, you've got a stocking stuffer suggestion for us?
I do. It's a great book, Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. It was the first book I read when I started working at Mosaic Books, and I loved it. It took me just a couple of days to read. It was a bit of a page burner, but it's basically a classic good versus evil novel. Basically, there's a guy who creates this virtual reality system, and it becomes so successful. It's one of the biggest companies on the planet. But he dies without any heirs, so he creates a little contest within this virtual reality where whoever wins it takes over the majority share of his company. So that's what our protagonist does in this book. And it's really great and has a lot to do with classic video games, a lot of 80s pop culture references in there. So anybody who grew up in the 80s, 90s is really going to love this book. Yeah, it's just a really great read. I loved it, and I'm sure you will too.
I actually read this book after Graham's recommendation, and I also polished it off in a week and was totally immersed. The way it was like Harry Potter and Willy Wonka mixed together. It was...
But better.
But better. Awesome. Okay, Graham, thanks so much. We'll see you next week for our final Christmas recommendations.
All right, happy holidays.
Yes.